Deadlock is a tough game to get into. There's a lot of complex systems all interacting with each other, and that can be overwhelming to new players. If you're new to Deadlock and stuck in the low ranks, I'm here to help. In this video, we'll be going over 6 tips for initiates based on common mistakes I've seen from spectating low-ranked games. Before we get started, if you're looking for even more educational Deadlock content, you've come to the right place. I have a whole playlist of guides linked in the description, so be sure to check that out when you're done with this video. And while you're down there, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any guides in the future. But with that being said, let's get started with the first and most important tip for new players, and that is to shove the lane. This is done by killing enemy minions so that your own minions can march forward, giving your team lane priority. At all stages in the game, lane priority is key because it gives you critical opportunities to do other things on the map like farming or roaming for kills. It puts pressure on the enemies because it forces at least one player to come to the lane and kill the minions or risk taking critical objective damage. And the farther up your minions are, the farther out your ziplines go, making it easier to assert dominance over large portions of the map. If you don't have minions up by the walker or base when it's time to attack, then you won't be able to damage them effectively. So pushing the wave is absolutely crucial for winning in Deadlock. Minions on the lane, also known as wave creeps, are the biggest source of income for players over the course of a game. You want to make sure to never miss a wave if you can help it because you don't want to lose out on valuable income. The fewer players there are on a lane, the more money you'll get from each creep. So if you're behind on souls, going to a lane by yourself and farming the wave and other camps nearby is a great way to earn extra income. Just make sure that you shove the wave first if it's safe to do so, because that will buy you time and space to complete your other tasks on the map. This is especially important because if no one is around and the minions are left by themselves, they will just kill each other without giving you any money. Failing to prioritize pushing waves is one of the biggest mistakes that I see in low elo, and it's often because players underestimate their importance. If you frequently find yourself in a situation where your ziplines are constantly backed up to your walkers and you have no space on the map, this is one of the big reasons why. The second tip I have is related to the first one, and that's to always stay active on the map. To win a game of Deadlock, you need to be richer than your enemies, and that means breaking boxes, killing enemies, and taking neutral camps at every opportunity. Far too often, I see low-rank players roaming around the map with no purpose. They are far from the lane, not breaking boxes along the way, and not taking camps either. This downtime is killing your chances of winning the game, and it's usually why you're the poorest person in the lobby. From the very start of the game, you can be doing a bunch of extra things to make more money. At 2 minutes into the match, boxes and tier 1 camps will spawn on the map. After shoving the lane, going around breaking boxes is often an easier and more reliable way to make money than killing the enemies, especially if the enemies are playing safe. These can give you a few hundred more souls over the course of the lane, which is enough to get your ultimate faster than the enemies and reach your next power spike before them. I have a whole video discussing how you can exploit these timers to more efficiently take camps and boxes as soon as they spawn, so go check that video out if you haven't already. Efficiently making as much money as possible is the name of the game, so try to think about what you can be doing to earn souls with each passing moment. Now, each hero has different strengths and weaknesses for making money. Some heroes excel at farming camps quickly and need a lot of souls before they become a powerhouse. Seven is the best jungler in the game, and a big part of his gameplay loop is finding the optimal way to clear as many camps as possible. Killing jungle creeps requires almost no thought or skill because they're stationary targets, and that gives you a great opportunity to plan out your next actions in advance. While you're taking a camp, look at the minimap and see what other camps you can move to next, and try to spot opportunities to get an advantage over the enemy team. If you see a big team fight happening on the other side of the map, try to push the objectives on your lane. If you see an opportunity to get a kill, take it. Other heroes suck at farming camps. They can take center sacrifices and beat up tier 1 minions, but larger camps just take too long to be efficient. Heroes like Calico and Abrams are much better at fighting in the early to mid game than junglers like Seven, and so they should prioritize disrupting the heroes that want to sit back and farm, killing them and stealing their loot. Regardless of who you're playing, you want to minimize the downtime between your actions and play as efficiently as possible. Plan your actions in advance, and while you're traveling between different points of interest, break boxes along the way. Use the secret shops to buy items instead of going back to base because it's much faster. Being a little loot goblin in the early game is a great way to get an edge over the enemies in the late game when it's time to fight. Now, learning how to plan your routes and efficiently navigate the map is tough, especially when you're in the thick of a match. That's why I recommend using the Explore Map feature to familiarize yourself with the map. Jump into the sandbox and just roam around, and pay attention to where features like vents, shops, teleporters, and camps are. And if you want some tips on improving your movement skills as you bounce from place to place, I have a movement guide on the channel that's sure to help you out. My third tip for new players is once again about making money. Sinner's Sacrifices are the most important farm on the map, and take immediate priority after clearing out the lane creeps. These painful vending machines sell like hotcakes at high elo, but everyone at low elo ignores them because they don't realize just how valuable they really are. Sinner's Sacrifices provide more souls than most other activities on the map, and they also grant 4 permanent buffs if you hit the jackpot with a heavy melee. Unlike jungle camps, every hero clears them at the same speed. It doesn't matter who you're playing, you can and should be doing Sinner's Sacrifices when you have the chance. Furthermore, if you can steal Sinner's Sacrifices from the enemy team, you'll make yourself stronger while denying them a lot of wealth. They spawn in at 8 minutes, and the sooner you pick them up, the better. The one big downside of Sinner's Sacrifices is that they do a lot of damage in the early game. If you don't have the health to take one out without putting yourself in critical condition, then you shouldn't attempt them. You can mitigate the health lost though by using healing right while you take it, or just by having a lot of health regen from various green items. Sinner's Sacrifices are such an important and underutilized aspect of the game at low elo that I made an entire dedicated video demonstrating how powerful they really are and offering some useful strategies for picking them up. For more information, go watch that video. However, farming and getting kills means absolutely nothing if you don't do something with it to advance your team towards victory. Far too often in Initiate games, players will kill a couple of enemies and then just go back to farming instead of pushing an objective. If your team is 1 or more players up on the enemies, that's the perfect time to try and push an objective. What you end up actually doing depends on the state of the game. At around 10 to 15 minutes, doing the Spirit Urn can be a great way to get ahead of the enemies, or catch up if you're behind. At 15 to 20 minutes, pushing a Walker can be ideal, especially if you know that some of the enemies are on the other side of the map. Past 20 minutes, you should be thinking about doing mid at the next available opportunity. That's because respawn times are long enough to give you ample time to defeat the mid boss. The Rejuvenator buff is extremely powerful and is usually what allows you to win the game. It makes it much easier to siege the enemy base, so you need to prioritize going mid the later into the game you get. Regardless of whether you run the urn, push a walker, or take down the mid-boss, you need to do something with your kills. If you sit on your hands and just go back to farming if you have a kill advantage, that's usually the wrong call. However, sometimes your team just doesn't get the memo. They're totally uncoordinated and nobody wants to push any objectives. That's where tip 5 comes into play: communication. You need to be comfortable with using your mic in Deadlock, or at the very least using the ping wheel to communicate your intentions. Low-rank lobbies usually don't have anyone calling the shots, and that's one of the big differences between low and high-rank games. Eternus players are much more willing to step up and call plays, whether it's running the urn, pushing a walker, or going mid. They'll even coordinate attacks on enemies that are caught in a bad position, or combo abilities together to win a team fight. Improving your communication skills is one of the best ways that you can rank up in Deadlock. Try to get your team working towards a common goal. Don't be afraid of making bad calls, because that's how you learn and improve going forward. A bad plan is still better than no plan, especially when you commit to seeing it through. It can be scary sometimes, trying to talk with the other strangers on your team, especially if someone is in a foul mood. If you're feeling extra shy, you can still use the ping wheel to communicate your basic intentions instead of using the mic. It's not as effective, but it still does the job. Just make sure not to type while you're playing. The only time it's acceptable to type is when you're dead. Otherwise, you'll fall behind on farming. Now, this last tip is kind of unrelated to everything I talked about thus far in the video, but it's still important. In most low-rank games that I've spectated, many people won't reach all their investment spikes. They'll get a lot of items in 2 categories, but completely ignore the third. It might be a spirit build that gets no gun items, a gun build that gets no spirit items, or worst of all, a build that gets no green items. Deadlock's item store has a mechanic where the more souls you invest into a category, the more weapon damage, health, and spirit power you'll get. Once you reach 4.8k souls, you get a major boost to the stat. This was done to encourage a more balanced approach to build crafting, and it worked. Most characters benefit from reaching 4.8k souls in each of the 3 categories to get a ton of weapon damage, health, and spirit power. If you're not doing this with your builds, then you're probably not building effectively. I made a video going over the best strategies for hitting your investment spikes, and I recommend watching it to learn how you can integrate these power spikes into your builds. But anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Hopefully these tips helped you get better at Deadlock. If you have any additional tips for new players, be sure to leave them in the comments section down below. While you're down there, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos from me. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.